The echo of gunshots becoming all too familiar for the Germantown area. This video shows the frightening conclusion to a road rage incident that ended in a shooting last Friday morning in Salemtown.
I was really shocked.
Lizzie Theriot was working from home just blocks away when she heard those shots ring out.
You just don't expect that kind of stuff to happen, especially in Germantown, and something as simple as road rage, especially this being a neighborhood street. You kind of wonder what could make a person so angry to shoot someone.
This shooting, one of several in the Germantown area recently. This map shows 4 examples of gun violence in just the past 3 months, including a shooting outside of the Germantown Kroger, shots fired from an apartment balcony, and a shooting just outside of the Optimist restaurant last night.
Unfortunately, there's been a noticeable uptick in gun violence.
Councilmember Freddie O'Connell says he's also concerned with the recent shootings. He says each of these are unique. There's no pattern in who is targeted or why, but most involve people who know each other, not random strangers.
And given that they are so different, does that make it harder to pin down a solution?
It does, because how do you, it could have been any neighborhood in Nashville that somebody gets behind the wheel of a car and suddenly gets so frustrated that they're going to reach into their dashboard and pull out a gun and start firing. I don't know why that happened in Salemtown, but I also don't know how you do something that prevents that kind of activity.
Councilmember O'Connell says he's in frequent contact with MNPD to brainstorm ideas to stop the violence. They're working with local businesses like Kroger to find solutions and doing community outreach before another shooting occurs.
Thank you. New tonight, allegations of racism, neglect, and physical abuse by guards at a private prison in Trousdale County. The state pays Core Civic, the parent company, to house a couple of thousand male inmates here at the Trousdale Turner facility outside Hartsville. At a news conference this afternoon, State Senator Brenda Gilmore, along with the head of the Nashville branch of the NAACP, made allegations of brutal beatings, racial slurs, and delayed or, in some cases, denied medical treatment.
I would consider Trousdale as a slave camp. They're treating those men in such a horrible and horrific way.
Martha Carter says her son is one of them. He was refused medical treatment, according to her, for months and was only diagnosed with cancer after he was transferred away from the Trousdale Turner Center. Senator Gilmore is calling for a federal investigation tonight. Core Civic, which has been widely criticized for the conditions at Trousdale, calls the allegations unsubstantiated and inaccurate.
State lawmakers are trying to restrict federal vaccine mandate, but in a memo sent from HCA Healthcare, those here at TriStar must receive their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine by December 5th. A spokesperson for TriStar Hospital, owned by HCA, says the majority of HCA Healthcare colleagues have already been fully vaccinated and are working with colleagues to assist those that have not yet received the vaccine. Nurses are speaking out against the mandate and believe it should be their choice what to put inside their bodies. Vanderbilt's infectious disease specialist, Dr. William Schaffner, says the COVID-19 vaccines are extraordinarily effective and safe in preventing severe disease. He says the risks of COVID outweigh the risks associated with the vaccine.
I think it is both a professional and an ethical responsibility for every single healthcare worker to be vaccinated against both influenza and COVID.
I had COVID. It didn't affect me that bad. It definitely affects some. It's killed many. But for me and my family, I know what's good for me and my body, and the way that COVID affected me, I still have the antibodies coursing through my veins, and that's not enough.
An important issue we've talked about a lot over the years is the homeless situation in this city overall, but also veterans. And you took a look at where we stand right now, because at one point we officially were at zero, officially, but we still knew there were veterans out there that didn't have a place to go. You have an update several years later.
Yes, we do, Josh, and we found out that those numbers have been ticking up really the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic. Today we actually spoke with someone who's faced this issue of homelessness as a veteran head on, and it's someone you actually spoke with 7 years ago for a Price of Freedom segment. Back then he had a pregnant wife. Now his daughter's 7 years old. Let's take a look at his story.
Yard, a family, and a home.
I don't know how to take it in. Some of the people that stepped up to the plate are so good.
Getting here wasn't easy for this Chattanooga veteran.
To serve my country, I went in wanting to do good.
Robert Rowan says he served 3 tours in the Marine Corps from 84 to 90.
We went through a lot of trials and tribulations.
Robert fell into homelessness after having a heart attack and coming to Chattanooga in 2014, juggling a pregnant wife and ongoing haunts from his PTSD. We spoke with him 7 years ago when he was living at a camp.
You just don't know the stress level. I can break the meter in a heartbeat.
Daughter Zoe was born and they found housing for years, but after being suddenly evicted back in August, it was back to the streets until the VA helped them get this home last week.
I was living in and out of my car. I had a 7-year-old daughter who had an autoimmune disease.
Wendy Winters is the director of the Chattanooga Regional Homeless Coalition. 2 years ago, she says the care system was housing veterans quicker than they were experiencing homelessness, but that's changed.
You know, the lack of affordable housing, it's a crisis situation across the nation. It is particularly bad here in the Chattanooga region.
In January 2020, she says only about 7 veterans were experiencing homelessness in Southeast Tennessee on any given night. Now that number is about 100.
These were problems that were growing pre-pandemic, and of course the pandemic made it worse.
And that's what kills me, because when we serve our country, we go over there because we believe in what we want to do. But when we come back, it's like it takes forever for the benefits to kick in.
Patricia, Wendy with the Homeless Coalition says what they really need is compassionate landlords to help these veterans experiencing homelessness. They say that they have the funds available and incentives to help these veterans move from homelessness into permanent housing, but what they really need is these landlords who are making this population a priority. Josh?
When we met Robert, he was living in a homeless camp behind the Walmart there in East Ridge, and so clearly he's doing much better today. But boy, just going through that process, you learn so much about the homeless population, right? Exactly. When you go on those camps, that's their home. So if you don't ever walk across something like that, just let them be back there, because that's where their all belongings are, and you know, it's a tough way to live.
Absolutely. He's come a long way. It's been a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, but it's great to see him in a home now.